All right, so guys, this is number 3 out of 1.5. So let me go ahead and go through the problem, see if we can't figure it out. It says a projectile is launched from ground level with an initial velocity v0 feet per second, neglecting air resistance, its height in feet t seconds after launch is given by s equals negative 16 t squared plus v0 t. The question says, find the times that the projectile will reach a height of 128 feet and when it's going to return to ground, when v0 is 96 feet per second. Okay, so let's do part A here. We're going to figure out when it's going to reach a height of 128 feet. So the equation that they give us right here, I'm just going to write it down. S is equal to negative 16t squared plus v0t. Now they're already telling me that v0 is 96, so that's going to be 96t. Okay, the letter S, guys, refers to the height, okay? And since we're looking for when the height's going to be 128, all I'm going to do right here is I'm going to plug in a 128 where my S used to be. So I'm going to write this as 128 equals negative 16t squared plus 96t. Now, since I'm trying to solve a quadratic equation, I need to get 0 on one side. I'm going to go ahead and move these terms this way. And so now I'm going to have 16t squared, positive because I'm crossing the equal sign, a minus 96t, my signs are going to change, and it's still a positive 128. Oops. Positive 128, and now that's equal to 0. So the first thing I'm going to see if I can do is I'm going to see if I can do a little bit of factoring. So I'm going to try to factor actually the number 16 out of each of these terms. So if I take 16 here, that's going to be t squared minus 16 should go into 96. Oh, I'm going to take my calculator because essentially what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm just dividing 96 by 16. 96 divided by 16. I'm just doing this on a calculator that I have here. Is minus 6t plus, let's see, 128 divided by 16 is 8, okay, equals 0. So now I'm going to factor this part on the inside now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the inside piece, and I'm going to tell you what part I'm looking at. I am looking at this equation here, t squared minus 6t plus 8 equals 0. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do with that 16 in a second, okay? So, excuse me, if I'm trying to factor this thing here, remember the number in front of my t squared is now a 1. So I can, my shortcut should work. 1 times 8 is 8. So I'm just going to write that over here on the side. And I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 8 and add up to a minus 6. And we can use a minus 2 and a minus 4. So now I'm going to write this as t minus 2 and t minus 4 equals 0. Now, I told you I was going to put that 16. What I was going to do with 16, I'm just bringing it back in, okay? So now, remember, there's something called the zero factor property. And the zero factor property says if I'm taking some numbers and I'm multiplying them together, like 16, t minus 2, t minus 4, and that answer is going to be 0, then one of those numbers will have to be 0. I can tell you right now what number isn't. 16 isn't, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to worry about t minus 2 equals 0, and I'm going to worry about t minus 4 equals 0. So when I set each of those factors to those parts to 0, when I move that over, that's going to give me t equals 2. There's my first answer. When I move that one over, that's going to give me t equals 4. So we ended up with two answers here. One of them is t equals 2, and the other one is t equals 4. Now, there's a second part, because the second part says, when are we going to return to the ground, okay? So remember, here's my equation, okay? I'm going to write that down again on the next slide. S equals negative 16t squared plus 96t. We want to know when it's going to reach the ground. Well, when it reaches the ground, the S value is going to be now 0. Equals negative 16t squared plus 96t. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to factor this guy. So here, I'm going to take out a negative 16t. I'll be left with t minus 6. Okay. Then we can set each part equal to 0. So negative 16t equals 0. And t minus 6 is equal to 0. So when I divide both sides by a negative 16, here I'm ending up with t equals 0. When we move that 6 over, we get t equals 6. And that's my answers. Those are my answers for part B. So when is it going to reach the ground? Well, think about it this way. It started off on the ground here, but remember what's happening is that thing is going up and it's coming back down. So this is when it starts off. That's at 0. When does it hit it again at 0? At 6 seconds. Okay, so I'm